Norris. It's contact. Max Verstappen claims title number 3.
Well, it might have been a sleeper for the first 40 laps, but it woke up with a start. What an astonishing end. What an astonishing Grand Prix here in Austria. George Russell is your race winner, but that is nowhere near the full story. We're going to unpack it all in the here and the now and in the paddock. Welcome to your post-race show here on F1 TV. Hello guys, Will Buxton, Davide Valsecchi, Jolyon Palmer, who may just have got his breath and his voice back after calling that race. Guys, listen, let's hit the headline off the top. George Russell, a race winner. Actually, you know what, Jolyon, I'm going to come to you first, mate. Sorry, Davide. Because yesterday after qualifying, George said to you, listen, I'm just going to sit there, do my best, and wait for these two guys to take each other out. And that's exactly what happened.
He's always been a man of his word,
Yes.
as George Russell. And yeah, you know, when you start third, you think, are you going to bed on a Saturday night thinking you can win the race? Or is he waking up thinking he's fighting for third? And logically, you think third. But you never know what's going to happen to the top two, especially when they're Max and Lando. Okay, they're good mates, or they were good mates. But they're so evenly matched, and you know that the race is probably going to go down to the wire between them. You never know what can happen. George was in exactly that camp, did his best, held off everyone behind nicely, and was there to pick up the pieces, and did it well.
That's a good point, actually. If you haven't caught up with the race, Verstappen was leading, Lando was catching. Brilliant few laps of great racing, which we will get into. Then contact between the two. George screams through to win the race, and Davide Toto Wolff gets on the radio and says, George, you can win this, and George is like, I know that. I'm well aware of that. Thank you, Toto.
Oh, stay there. Let me drive. Yeah, it was an amazing race. Mega race. Great job from you, from DC, from Alex. To be honest, I couldn't stay still watching the race this afternoon. But we need to say that it was not an easy one for George. Did you remember the start of the race when he was fighting his teammate, Sir Lewis Hamilton, for the position, and he could resist to Hamilton, to the attack from Hamilton? Maybe was this laps then define his race and get him to the victory. So well done to Russ that did everything perfect. He was incredibly lucky, yes, but he was there fighting on top from the beginning of the race. Well done.
Have you ever had it in your racing career where you're running in third and the top two crash and then you win? Did you ever have that?
No, you need to be lucky, but okay, I never had the chance to be so high level, and so, yeah, incredibly well done.
My brother had that once on one race in Formula Renault, lower levels, and I was watching, and he was in a really boring third position, and it might have been Lando in the race, actually, in Formula Renault, and Max Deforny, a Belgian guy. And they were a long way away in Estoril, and on the last lap, neither of them came through. Little Will Palmer comes through winning. I'm like, how can you be so lucky to pick up the pieces? And it's happened in Formula 1 today. The moment for George, when he comes through turn 7 and he sees a hobbling McLaren and a hobbling Red Bull, it's like Christmas come early. 5 Christmases come early.
But he was being pushed. At the end, Oscar Piastri coming on strong in those last few laps for McLaren. He did the great job to hold him off.
I agree with you, and he had also a great move on Sainz, Oscar Piastri. Probably one of the best moves of the entire weekend. So he was flying just at the end, but Russell, when he got the chance, when he responded in that way to Toto Wolff, I thought, it's his day. No way someone is going to catch him. He was determined to respond. Come on, let me drive. That he managed the gap, and then he was a bit lucky because there was a virtual safety car for an instance. Maybe he cooled down a bit the tires, and then in the last 2 laps, he just maintained the gap and took this victory. Well done.
Right.
Mercedes was missing in the victory for this year.
Yeah.
And then they got it.
Not now. Take a deep breath, boys. You ready? All right, time to get into it. Max had pulled out a 7+ second lead. Then he comes into the pits for his second and final stop. And in that moment, a slow stop, he exits on used tires. Lando exits on new tires. Then Max has the lockup, and crucially, at that point, Lando gets himself to within sniffing distance of that Red Bull. We saw big battles between the two of them. not quite as clean as they were yesterday. Lando overtakes off track, has to give the position back, which he did. And again, they're fighting. Max is moving under braking. Lando attempts again down there into turn 4. And now we see the onboards, guys, because these were the attempts at the overtake, the attempts which ultimately proved fruitless. This time Max runs wide. Lando gets on the radio and says, listen, he's got to give that position back. He's never going to do that. And then the moment that sealed it for both. Up the outside this time, Max moves under braking again. And this time it is a terminal, well, it's terminal in the end for Lando, but a big puncture for both drivers. Max slides down the order, finishes in P5 after getting a 10-second penalty for that, for causing a collision. Lando Norris, the only retirement from today's Grand Prix. An astonishing turn of events, an astonishing way for the battle for the win to be concluded, and we can hear from Lando Norris right now.
Hey Lando, just talk me through how you're feeling after a Grand Prix where you had incredible pace. You should have really won that race, and obviously it just didn't happen with contact with Max.
Yeah, I thought it was a good race until then. Clearly a little bit on the back foot in terms of overall pace comparing to Max. You know, the first and second stint he would always just edge away that little bit. But they just seem to make a lot more mistakes than what we did. You know, they messed up their pit stop, which is rare from them, but clearly a bit of pressure from their side, and they started to slip up a little bit. But I felt like I drove a good race, you know. I kept myself in the fight the whole time. It was very difficult on track easy to make mistakes, so difficult to drive because of the wind and conditions and things like that. But, just feel let down, you know. A lot of damage on the car. The car's completely destroyed now, so yeah, a shame. I don't know. You want to keep driving, and if I go back to the pits in a better way, I could have probably gone out and got some points, but the car was too badly broken. So I don't know what I'm going to say. I did all I could. I gave a fair, respectful, you know, on the edge battle, but that's not what I got in return.
Obviously you and Max have always been good friends, or you've long been good friends. Is it the kind of thing that you want to go and chat about? Because obviously
it's not for me to say, it's for him to say something. I did nothing wrong. He was the one in the wrong, so he's the one that should say something, not me.
Lando clear then in his mindset after the race. Let's hear from Max Verstappen.
Hey Max, hard luck. Obviously you never want to see races end like that. Just give me your view of that battle with Lando.
Yeah, it's of course unfortunate. It's stuff that you don't want to see happening. It's as simple as that. Of course, I will look back at it, because I mean, of course, at the moment it's easy to say stuff. I think it's better to just look back at the footage of what exactly went wrong, because it was a bit of I would say, an awkward angle that we touched. Something that, yeah, it's very weird, and also for both of us to get a puncture with it was, yeah, really bad. But we also did so many things wrong throughout the race that we put ourselves, you know, in a position like that. So those are also things that we have to look at to improve.
I think both of you guys were saying throughout the race that you felt both of you weren't doing the right thing. I know you're good friends. Is this the kind of thing you'll go away and talk about going forward?
Yeah, of course we'll talk about it. At the moment, I think it's not the right point. It's better to just let things cool off, I think, ideally. But besides that, I'm more annoyed also with just how the performance of the racers and the mistakes that we made that normally we don't make.
All right, thanks, Max.
So a disappointed and very upset Lando Norris. A Max Verstappen who was, can we say, contrite? No, maybe not necessarily contrite, but certainly not wanting to apportion blame to Lando. Is that because he has some doubt in his own mind as to his role within that?
Yeah, so he'll know. He's moved across on the brakes. He's felt the contact. He'll know. So interestingly, he wants to wait and see the picture before he passes real judgment. He's just come out of the car and gone straight to that interview. But talk about the angle of contact being unfortunate. You shouldn't be having contact. There's not touring cars that we're racing here. It's Formula One cars. There are sensitive carbon pieces on the edge. You know, they're not built to be having a little bit of bumping. You've got to leave space for the opposition, particularly on the braking zone into the corner. You can't be crowding a driver. And for me, too many times, Max was desperate in that battle. He was desperate. And in the end, I think Lando refused to be bullied, held his ground on the outside, rather than, he could have technically driven off the road, you know, as Max moved across. But I think he refused to be bullied in the end, and Max caused the contact.
Social media has gone crazy, obviously. Max Verstappen's fans saying that Lando Norris was just sending it too late up the inside, locking off, going deep, being under investigation for exceeding the track limits, that ultimately he was dive bombing Max Verstappen today. Davide, as a racer yourself, what did you make of Lando's moves today?
I don't know. I think was perfect until the collision. I'm honest, I really enjoyed it. I know this one was too much. I mean, he moved a bit, slightly, 5 or 6 centimeters, but was enough to create the collision. And this is the stuff that we don't want to see. But man, we cannot be so critical with them. I mean, that show was unbelievable. Every single driver here in the paddock is dreaming to be able to do something like this. And sometimes Norris, he was launching from too far away. But what a move! And then if you can do the corner and you force a bit Verstappen out, agree. But I don't know. I think was on the edge, too much just at the end. But I loved it. I loved the aggressivity. I loved the passion. And maybe they went too far. But sometimes the race, they are like this. And in the past, is the stuff that we were seeing 20 or 30 years ago was something like that. Sometimes over the limit.
Any Max fan that thinks Lando was just sending it there wants to have a short look back at how Max has been driving since he's been in Formula One. These are Verstappen's moves. Think back to 2021 particularly. He lunges, he comes in from far. Okay, he's had the best car for a couple of years and he's been able to be a little bit more controlled. But this is how he's built his reputation as a hard racer. Abu Dhabi 21, I hate to mention it, but lap 1, Verstappen put in a monster lunge on Hamilton. When things were really up for grabs, Lewis kept the place by going off the track. That part was slightly controversial, and Max thought he should have the place. And I thought that Lando was aggressive, but that's the move I like to see. Lunges on the brakes, big chances, and I thought Max did 3 things that were sketchy in that. I thought the moving under braking the first time was very grey area, and that's his own rule that that's been imposed because of him.
Yep.
Number 2, keeping the place by going off the track. That shouldn't have been allowed. Lando made it down the inside, had the car stopped, kept all 4 of his wheels inside the white line, was ahead at the turning point. Max shouldn't have been able to release the brake and come back on in front. Finally, you get the contact. And I think that's why Lando's disappointed, because he's been aggressive, but ultimately showing the respect. When he took the place off the track, he immediately gave it back. Didn't try and play any games, give it back just before a DRS or anything. And he's not been shown it back.
Okay, here's a question. Max has had the car, he's had the dominant car, hasn't really been put under much pressure since the end of 2021. Is the Max that we saw today a return to the Max that we thought had left, that we thought had matured? When Max came into the sport in 2015, Jolyon, as you say, they changed the regulations, particularly because of Max's defensive style under braking, those late moves under braking that are not allowed under the regulation. They came back today. For me, absolutely zero question. Up there into turn 3, lap after lap, he moved well after the braking point. And that's what caused the collision today. Surely that's what caused the collision today, because if he holds position there, there's no contact.
He got the penalty for that.
Yes.
Yeah. But
what does 10 seconds mean? Oh, there's nothing. It's pointless.
I didn't believe that he could ended up 5th after the puncture and after the penalty. So he got surprised. He got extremely lucky for me to ended up 5th. But you don't have, guys, this feeling that it's 3 years that we are missing that. The last time that we saw a fight like this, it's so high level, so competitive, is when there was Verstappen try to take away the kingdom of Lewis Hamilton. You don't have this feeling that now we have a driver into the field that is matching the champion. So I don't know, it's the best afternoon of my life.
So now
on the sportive side.
So now we have the reverse situation, and Lando trying to take away that
enjoyed it so much
in the same way. So you have the reverse situation where Max is now the champion, undisputed for so many years now, but Lando's still showing him the respect. Max wasn't showing the same respect to Lewis in 21 that Lando was showing. Yes, there were dive bomb moves, but the risk of contact was pretty low, and Lando managed to get it stopped. And it's the grey areas that Max is operating in, like he was in 21. And I think that's the frustration. And the moving under braking, one to the inside, and then finally, he's caused the collision between them.
But what does that tell us about the competitive landscape in Formula One? If Max is having to resort to the grey areas in order to try to keep the lead of the race, it tells me that they're scared, they're worried.
But I think the first thing here is that Verstappen qualified 4 tenths clear of the field yesterday. Let's not kid ourselves. He's been magic this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
He's been so good for a very long time. He's driving at the absolute top level. And again today, he was driving brilliantly. He was unlucky in the pit stop, lost 4 seconds to Lando. His lead was completely taken away. And then he was on a worse tyre. He was on a used tyre. Lando had a new tyre. So a nice strategy move from McLaren. So I feel like Max thought he'd earned the win. So he was going to drive everything he possibly could with his elbows out, both sides, kicking and screaming to hold on to the win that he'd set up through qualifying and through, 50 laps of the race.
No mistakes.
So it was just about doing anything and more to try and win. And we've not seen that from him for a long time.
Not for a long time.
Personally, I don't think he's thinking championship at all. I think he's a ruthless driver that is pushing for every single win, even when he's got so many and the championship in his pocket. And he's been winning races that he mightn't have won in the last few because he's been driving so well. This one, in the end, by circumstance, could have been Lando's win. As it happened, he had a 5-second penalty looming. Red Bull maybe should have told Max that he didn't need to be driving quite like that. But we've forgotten about that in all of it. But, this is a guy that wins so much, and under pressure and facing another win, he wants more. He's so hungry for it.
Is that what makes Max the champion he is, that ruthless side of him? Or is this the ugly side of Max, which we thought had disappeared through maturity?
Probably, but everyone in the paddock knows that if you have to overtake Max Verstappen, you have to do the move of your life. If no, immediately in the next corner, you've been crashed away. And what I have the feeling that today, when Verstappen saw Lando Norris arrived, he thought that if he was able to hold the position, so to defend strongly for 3 or 4 laps, Lando was losing the effect of the new tires, and like yesterday, he couldn't win the race. But today, McLaren was more prepared. They told that yesterday. We are doing something for tomorrow. We are doing something for the setup. They conserved the new tires just for the last stint. Norris knew how Verstappen defended yesterday and tried everything. I really loved the
And we were talking yesterday about how great that battle was and how instinctive Max's defense was to take the lead back again without DRS. It seems almost disappointing that 24 hours later we're talking about a controversy like this, because it was so positive at the end of yesterday's sprint.
It's disappointing, but I have to say it's exciting for Formula One because the rivalry has just been stoked. These guys have been so respectful. They are mates off the track as well. And Lando has been so respectful of Max. He's opened the door, Silverstone last year, I think Japan last year, and he sort of just waves Max through because he knows that the McLaren hasn't been able to fight with the Red Bull. Now the McLaren can fight with the Red Bull, but yet you see Barcelona, turn 1. He was very cautious with Max coming on the inside. Okay, he had George on the outside. Yesterday, he threw the lunge on the inside,
left the door open.
but then he left the door open. He's been very fair overall with Max through the whole time racing together.
Gloves off?
I think it's gloves off. It changes now.
Bring it on. Right. You probably heard enough from us. Let's hear from Christian Horner. I think I can guess what his reaction will be.
Christian, dramatic end to that race, given Max had a really good start and a good lead on Lando in the beginning.
Yeah, well, we felt like we got everything pretty much under control. I mean, we had an 8-second lead and we were able to cover whatever Lando was doing. With the cooler temperatures, the medium tyre looked the better tyre, which is why we took the medium. We had a scrubbed versus Lando's new, and there was a hold-up in the pit stop, which put the cars much closer together than they should have been. But then after that, I mean, Lando exceeded the track limits 4 times, so he was due to get a penalty. And it just felt like he was over-ambitious, with that in mind. So, so very frustrating today.
Max did get the 10-second penalty for causing the collision, though. What are your thoughts on that?
I thought that was harsh. I mean, Lando was doing a lot of dive bombing, and it felt unnecessary. So frustrating. I mean, that was a win that would have been great to get here, but that's racing sometimes. So congratulations to George, who inherited the win, and even with the frustration of today, we've still managed to extend both championships.
Yeah, not the result you wanted, but some important points on the board nonetheless.
No, thank you very much.
Thanks, Christian.
Emma Walsh on the questions. Great questions to Christian Horner. Right, so it was Russell, Piastri, Sainz, your top three. Hamilton coming home in P4, picked up a 10-second penalty for just getting a bit sideways, putting a wheel. Big black tyre mark over the white line on pit entry. Verstappen, P5. Should we look to the back of the top 10? Pierre Gasly, 10th place. Points for Alpine. We'd said throughout the weekend we thought they had top 10 pace in them. They did have top 10 pace in, well, maybe P12 if it wasn't for, well, P11, you know what I mean. But decent for them. They were there in the fight pretty much throughout.
They were there or thereabouts the whole time with the Haases. They're on different strategy. I just love the fight between them. It's another one where we're not going to open up Max and Lando, but I love that the needle between drivers is what we've been missing. I don't like it when they're all too friendly, and we see that again with Pierre and Esteban Ocon as well. It means so much for them to overtake their teammate. The complaints every race, either it's the team orders or the way that the other one's driving, and they're so evenly matched. They have been the whole time. Every race we get this nice little drama, and the racing's really brilliant from them.
Yeah, I really enjoyed watching the two of them fight it out today. Ocon P12 at the flag, but enjoyable. No contact, so Bruno Famin will be happy.
Yeah, big respect, and with Ocon usually is always at the limit, the fight with his teammate, and it has to be like this. But incredible the race of Gasly, because he overtook Ocon 2 laps before the pit stop, and that move was amazing because he has no DRS. Ocon overtook him on the outside. Look the move, boom! Way deep on the outside and took the position. That was outstanding,
yeah.
And that was two laps before the last pit stop. Fresh tires for him, 1 lap earlier, then Ocon, and then boom, 3-second lap, you cannot catch me. He said something like, ciao ciao. I know, it's Italian.
Exactly what he said.
It's Italian.
Yeah, beautiful stuff. Enjoyed that race between the Alpines. Leclerc in between them, obviously, race ruined right at the very start. They had to come in end of lap 1 for that front wing, and after that, just a multitude of stops and a horrible day. Ferrari still believed he could get a top 10, just narrowly outside.
Oh, hanging weekend for Charles Leclerc. Really, really horrible. From sprint qualifying, not getting a lap in, then on the back foot in the sprint, qualifying, running through the gravel, and then the very start of the race has this moment. I mean, it's very tight. He's got Piastri on his outside. He's pinched on the inside as well. It's very close, and that sort of move at Austria Turn 1 we see so often as well. Maybe a little bit unlucky there.
Okay, let's move to Daniel Ricciardo, P9. In the race today, we said in the lead-up he needed a Davide's happy for him. We're all happy for him. Nobody wants to see Daniel Ricciardo doing badly, and after such a difficult week, so many headlines, so many rumors, so many reports, to pull out some points here today, that will mean a lot to him as he aims not just to stay in the sport next season, but even this season.
Also because it was in a different strategy, was not on TV so much, but he was running very well, not in traffic, alone, good race pace, and then just at the end, bombing points, and he held on the position incredibly. So well done to Ricciardo, that was much quicker than Tsunoda today, and it paid off. Happy for him.
First of the stoppers today, that other than Leclerc, he and Magnussen jumping in on lap 11, much earlier than anyone was expecting, and that really played to all of their benefit.
It turned out it was the right move for Haas. They were in that battle with Alpine. Ricciardo did the same as Haas. They all ended up ahead of the Alpine, so pitting early, taking the track position was good. And I think Ricciardo has been doing well. When you think Canada, 2 races ago he qualified 5th, got some points even though he had a penalty for creeping at the start. It's not long ago he had that Miami heroics in the sprint. Anytime he doesn't do very well, it's a headline now because he's under pressure. But he's actually been just low-key picking up some results recently. He's very inconsistent. And we talk about him more when he's probably down than when he's having the good moments. And I think, again, banking some points, beating Yuki this weekend, I think he's doing his future some good right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Great job from him, and as we've been saying, has not without a fight on the back of his helmet. It was a hell of a fight today and a hell of a drive. When we talk about a hell of a fight, we know every point counts at the moment for the teams in the lower half of the order. Haas were sensational this weekend. Hulkenberg and Magnussen, both of them in the points. Nico Hulkenberg now up to 12th in the Drivers' Championship. Haas up to 7th. A tremendous haul of points for them. P6 and P8 at the flag. Davide, what will that mean for the drivers, for the team?
Incredibly important, because this weekend is the speed that surprised me. The speed yesterday of Magnussen in the sprint race. Gaining position on the Alpine and staying close to Perez. The speed of both today, in a certain point of the race, we thought, come on, they are fighting each other more than 10 laps. It's difficult to get point. 6 and 8. I mean, they were in the point even with the content. I think the speed of the car just surprised me. Well done for Hulkenberg. They've shown that in a difficult weekend, they just changed completely the weekend yesterday with a great quali, and today deserved the position. But then also Magnussen, that was struggling a bit in the comparison. In the last few races, yeah, the good sprint yesterday, fantastic result today. So,
and more inter-team fighting between the two of them. Good fun.
Yeah, good fun. It's not a fluke for Haas either. K-Mag was quick in the sprint. If the points had gone down further, he would have banked some then. I feel like you've got this battle Haas and Alpine. The Haas drivers work so well together. Okay, there was a little fight, but generally, K-Mag let Nico go back through after the first stops. They had a little radio chatter, but they were then doing their own thing. And I think they're working well. We've seen it already. Magnussen sacrificing races to help Hulkenberg out. They're in this fight against Alpine, who are doing the opposite. They're just getting their elbows out. They're fighting each other. And remember Monaco, where they actually took points physically off each other, and they're not doing the team game. And that's sometimes the difference, especially when you end up having double retirement for the leaders. Leclerc's out, there's chances to get 6th. When Haas are in perfect harmony with their drivers, it helps to deliver big points.
Yeah. I said something or no? I remember something. I don't know if against Hulkenberg with the team, go away
on the radio.
Yeah, I think something like this in a certain point. No, Magnussen.
Very long time
They were told
ago,
him to save the tyres as he let Hulkenberg through.
No,
you forgot it. Go.
Mate, that was like an hour and a half ago.
That was as needly as it got.
Yeah.
I think K-Mag then was not agreeing. That was the needle in Haas.
Yeah. Right, should we hear from Nico Hulkenberg? Brilliant weekend, brilliant day, brilliant result.
Hey Nico, heck of a fight there to get P6. Held Checo off right at the end as well. I can see the smile on your face. Just tell me how much of a great drive that was.
Yeah, hell of a race. Yeah, no, especially at the end it got so intense, but I think it was intense at the front too with Max and Lando, so it was happening everywhere. It was, touch and go. I was really, pushing hard to keep Checo behind. But yeah, the last 2 laps, my tires were kind of really, done with it. And I made a statement. I almost lost the car completely out of turn 10 in a big way. I went onto the gravel a bit and had a big tank flapper. Then he came by, but into 3, I kind of let him edge in front, so I could have DRS for the next straight, which obviously put me back in front. And luckily, it was final lap because I would have not survived another lap. But yeah, very happy. Double points for the team and in a big way. So didn't expect that. Obviously, 1 car out or something, but still, amazing team performance today and this weekend. I think it's confirmed now, that in the midfield on all sorts of different tracks, we are competitive. We can fight everyone, and yeah, that's really a great news, and very happy about that.
We were talking ahead of the weekend about how the fight for P7 is there, and even maybe P6 if you get things right. When you take your opportunities like this, just shows how important it is to do that and seize the moment, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah, you got to be there weekend in, weekend out. Consistency and a long season is key. Also this year, we've obviously worked much better and more efficiently in terms of bringing updates. We've, steadily improved the car. That means, we can keep up with the others. We've got another one coming next weekend, so yeah, excited for that. Silverstone anyway, one of my favorites, so looking forward to a good week.
Great stuff, congrats.
Super positivity down at Haas in the moment, and with good measure. Obviously coming 6th and 8th, there was a driver in the middle of that sandwich, Joe.
Yeah, Sergio Perez. Hulkenberg beat Perez today. Checo had a penalty for speeding in the pit lane, but they were actually comparable on pace. It's incredible. Forget that Verstappen actually still beat him, and even though he had the dramas, finished in 5th, so it was only one driver from ahead that really dropped out. Outstanding.
Yeah, incredible. Absolutely brilliant. Right, let's take a look at the Drivers' Championship on the left-hand side of your screen right now. The running order: Verstappen, Norris, Leclerc, Sainz, Perez, Piastri, Russell, Hamilton, Alonso, Tsunoda, as we've said. Hulkenberg up to P12 and Magnussen up to P16. So really great day from Haas and feeling very confident moving towards Silverstone, as I'm sure will be Mercedes and home hero George Russell as he moves into the British Grand Prix. Emma's got Toto Wolff.
Toto, an unexpected win today, but what a day, what a result. How are you feeling?
Yeah, very good. It's been a while that we haven't won a race, and today just feels very good. We didn't have quite the pace of the two in the front, but it wasn't a lot. We were always in close distance, and this is what, George driving a fantastic race, he just monetized on that.
George did say that he was going to sit back and just see what unfolded in front of him. He did just that, and it worked out really well for him.
Yeah, I think that was the pace of the car, and it was quick. Waiting something to happen. The third place was pretty much locked in. Yeah, and it got a bit feisty in the front, and we benefited today.
Shame about Lewis. If it wasn't for the floor damage and the penalty, he probably would have been up in the on the podium.
Yeah, it was the penalty that was harsh, turn one. Giving back the place to Sainz, and then a 5-second on entry, but this is the rules. And then the floor was damaged, and then he lost probably 2.5 tenths in performance.
Yeah. Well, we just heard the British national anthem, and we're heading into Silverstone next week. So no better way to head in with a win.
Yeah, I think it's a home win for us here and for me, and then next week another possible home victory. So it's going to be good.
All the best, Toto.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Win at home, hoping that George will pick up the same next week. Why don't we hear the easy for me to say, it's been a long day, from your race winner, George Russell.
Hey George, well, congratulations. I bet when we were talking earlier, you didn't expect a Grand Prix win was on the cards today. How'd you feel?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I was really happy with the race. Being in P3 was going to be a great result for us. I knew Lando was pretty fired up after yesterday. I saw the battles up front, and then you got to be there to pick up the pieces, and that's what we were. And at the start of this year, we were never there. So the team have done an amazing job improving the car, and really proud to be back on the top step.
The way that you drove, obviously, up until that point of the accident, you were the best of the rest of the field. Anyway, the team have made such giant steps. What does this mean to you personally to get this second win, and for the team who are just working hard to try and claw your way back up the field?
It's huge for us. I think we had such a great opportunity in Canada. I feel like that was a missed opportunity for me, and now this feels like we made up for that. So, it's been a year and a half of so much hard work. This year started really on the back foot. Everyone came together, turned this around, and super happy, super proud of everyone.
Great stuff. Thank you, George.
Lovely stuff from George Russell. Great interview from Lawrence Barretto, who joins the show. Hello, my friends.
Hello, thank you for having me. What a pen. That was great. There's days like this when I get in there and I get to talk to drivers about something pretty spicy. It was great. Lando and Max didn't look at each other the whole time they were in the pen.
We're going to get to your opinion on Verstappen and Norris.
Sorry, I'm too excited.
No, mate, I love it, but it's just your orange pants. I kind of think we need to hear from Oscar Piastri.
Neither, mango.
Oh, it's not papaya. Close enough. It's a fruit. Should we hear from Oscar Piastri? Why don't we do that? He's with Emma Walsh.
Oscar, congratulations. What a wild end to the race. But P2 nonetheless, how are you feeling?
Happy, mostly. A little bit bittersweet, though. When you're so close to the win, we were chasing them down in the last stint. Just needed some more laps, really. And obviously starting from 7th instead of 3rd, it hurts at the moment. So bittersweet, but we'll definitely take the points, take the trophy. It's only my 4th podium in F1, so they don't come around every day. So I'll definitely take it, and I'm sure in a few hours it'll sink in a bit more.
You've got to be happy with that, though. We had some great battles out there with Sainz. The pace is good. You feeling good? Happy with the car?
Yeah, the car's been performing really well. I think the first stint was a bit tricky for us. Just stuck in the dirty air, couldn't really do much, and then went a bit different on the strategy, went a bit longer, and then built up some nice tyre difference, which was good. And we were really coming in the last stint, so I was happy with that. We've had a really quick car the last, nearly the whole season now. So yeah, our time's coming.
Well, Silverstone next week, home race for the team. Positive way to start the week, so all the best.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Oscar.
Thank you.
Lovely stuff from both Oscar and Emma there, guys. And he will be feeling confident going into Silverstone. McLaren once again showing their pace. A brilliant podium, could have been the win. We'll get into that with you, Lawrence, because you've been talking to the drivers. Let's hear first, though, from Alex Brundle back in the studio. What did you make of it all, my friend?
Wow, deep breath. Let's have a look at this one then. Lando Norris behind, Max Verstappen in front, the big moment of this Grand Prix. And it was a moment of tiny margins and huge consequences, which starts here for me. You go into the braking zone, the 150-metre board, Lando Norris behind, directly behind Max Verstappen. Now, there's a point every driver knows when they head towards a hairpin like this, where you have to stop thinking about the driver behind you and start thinking about where you're going to brake for the hairpin. That point comes here. Lando Norris commits then down the outside at around the 100-metre board. And for here, Max Verstappen drifts across the road into Lando Norris. Now, we've seen drivers get away with touches like that without any kind of damage all the weekend long. Both cars, of course, out of the race. It's so easy to argue that this is a penalty for Max Verstappen, who picks up a 10-second penalty as a result of the consequence of this move, of the consequence and the outcome of this move across the road, not the driving behaviour. Here it is again, tiny contact down there, and a puncture immediately for Max Verstappen, a puncture a few moments later for Lando Norris. I think this is an error for Max Verstappen. The reason why it is an error is when you jump to this shot, you can see he's clearly at this point not looking across in his left-hand mirror for Lando Norris. He's looking into the corner where he's going to be pointing that Red Bull towards the apex. And I firmly believe that Max Verstappen doesn't know Lando has jumped down the outside of him here. So if it's an error, if it's a lower formula, you look at this and you go, Max Verstappen's not intended to move across the road here on Lando, and therefore you might consider it a racing incident. But this is Formula One, and Formula One is all about tiny margins with massive consequences. And that's exactly what happened here between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. Verstappen picked up a penalty here, and I do agree with that penalty as a result of the fact you've got two leading cars out of the race, a car that moves across the road and makes contact with another. And howsoever that came about, you have to penalise that if you're the stewards in this event. There we go. My line in the sand is drawn. You've got two journos, you've got two race car drivers. Over to you guys.
Are you saying on the penalty, because you said that they penalised the consequence, not the action, and yet you're still saying he should have had the penalty?
I think so, yeah. I think so. I think that when Verstappen moves across the road, yes, there's a consequence. That consequence needs to be taken into consideration with regards to the penalty. Look, you cannot blanket ignore a car moving across the road towards the car on the outside in a braking zone and causing a puncture for the two leading cars. Do I think Max Verstappen intended to move across in the braking zone towards Lando Norris? No. Was that the outcome of this? Was that the outcome of what happened? Yes. And you've got to penalise that as the race director. You have to.
He did it. Brundle he's putting his colours to the mast here, boys. He's saying that Max didn't know that Lando was there.
I'll agree to disagree. I think as a driver, he's defended, so he knows that Lando's in the vicinity. And then even if you're looking, the driver's peripheral vision is quite wonderful at times. The McLaren is painted brilliantly papaya. I think he'll know that Lando's coming on the outside because he knows he's not on the inside. You wonder where he is. And what I do agree is, it's not the most ridiculous move, but he is crowding him off the road. And it was just the third straw. And Lando refused to be bullied. That's what I said before. I say it again. He doesn't move over for him.
I want to thank Alex. You're still there, right, mate? I wasn't giggling at you, mate. appreciate your insight tremendously, my friend, and I know you want to come back in. Come on, bring it. Let's go. Proper
I
debate.
think here Verstappen has already committed to his braking zone for the corner, and this is a natural movement across the road. I don't think for a moment that he intends to squeeze Lando to the left-hand side of the racetrack here and cause contact between the cars. Are we on board with that?
I would argue if you believe that, you haven't been watching Max Verstappen race for the last decade.
That's my view.
I think he absolutely knew he was there.
Right, well, you got to leave a space. It's the fundamentals.
Thanks, buddy. We got to let you go. Thanks,
it's the fundamentals. You have to leave the space. I mean, I think he's maybe misjudged it in the end, but he has still purposefully opened the corner to find a McLaren that's well alongside him on the outside.
Lawrence, what did you make of the demeanour of the two? I've got to say, this outfit, it's like you're like the McLaren in the pants and then the smashed pieces of the Red Bull on the top. Carbon fibre flying everywhere. What did you make of their demeanour, their reaction, their take on the situation? Because very different responses from both drivers.
Yeah, they were very different. I think Lando could barely look Max in the eye. I asked him, obviously, outright whether or not he wanted to talk to Max, and he felt it was Max's duty to talk to him. And I think that shows on the balance. Norris just firmly blames Max, not just for that move, but I think the way that he was defending throughout that exchange. I think Max talked very eloquently about how the team didn't do a very good job. He was quite tough on them today. He kind of pointed out how many issues there were with them. I think his car didn't feel very good, and that shows maybe how much pressure he was, and maybe he just wasn't making the smartest decisions.
He's actually being quite tough on his team at the moment. In Barcelona last week as well, said we're not quick enough. He won the race, but we're not quick enough. Canada, he won the race, but he had to work. He's having to do so much heavy lifting for Red Bull, and it's all with the backdrop that Checo is nowhere. He's not even... The idea of Checo pre-season, let's remind ourselves, was that if anything happens to Max, he could be there to pick up the pieces. He's not in... He's behind a Haas today.
Listen, I think Max Verstappen is a phenomenal world champion, a phenomenal driver. I really like the guy a lot. For me today, was over the limit. Davide, for you?
Me too. Yeah, it was just a bit over the limit. And the launches of Norris, I love that. Create the response of Verstappen that answered, and he overtook the limit of the fair combat into the track. And then he got penalized for that. So I know that we like to discuss about the penalties, but I really don't like it to... I'm used to upset the FIA because FIA is always right. It's like arguing with my wife. I'm always losing. So FIA decided Verstappen was over the limit.
I know the feeling. I know the feeling. Right, let's see what's coming up, because we are in the midst of a triple header. Silverstone is coming up in a couple of days' time. Thursday, 4th of July, your weekend warm-up. Then on Friday, it's your practice 1 and practice 2. We're back to a normal weekend. Saturday, the 6th of July, practice 3 in the morning, quali in the afternoon, and then Grand Prix race day, the Formula 1 Qatar Airways British Grand Prix, 3 p.m. Local time. Guys, your thoughts ahead of Silverstone. Davide, I'll start with you, mate.
To be honest, I think that it's not going to be easy for Red Bull and Verstappen. I mean, this weekend, amazing performance by the driver, and then they were struggling to win this race, and at the end, they lost it. So I don't think that they're going to restart so up on the grid. And if they don't find something in the car, they're going to struggling in the fight with McLaren. That seems at the moment, I don't know, they have something more. That's my feeling.
I'll credit the circuit here. This racetrack is brilliant at creating good races and great drama. Silverstone's the same. Next time, we've seen so many great British Grand Prix, and if there was anything you needed to spruce up a triple header, it was a little bit of that heading to the final.
Oh, yeah. Lawrence?
We've got to remember from Silverstone, that incident with Max and Lewis at Copse Corner and all the drama that came with it. So what a racetrack to head back to for the next chapter in this, because this is going to get spicy now, I think.
It already is, my friend. It already is. We have been talking about this now for weeks. Lando Norris gathering pace, gathering momentum, gathering confidence. McLaren seemingly the fastest car in the field. Red Bull under pressure, but perfect. Peerless, supreme. Would they break? Would anyone put them under that much pressure? They have been put under pressure. They have snapped. We've seen the result. And it's just the first round of an ever-evolving championship fight. I cannot wait for Silverstone, and I'm sure the British fans will be out cheering, not just for George Russell, your race winner today, but for Lando Norris in what we now believe to be the fastest car that is pushing the behemoth of Red Bull racing under pressure. And who can forget, of course, Sir Lewis Hamilton returning to home soil. We will see you there in just a few days' time. Thank you for joining us over the course of the weekend. My thanks to everybody that makes this broadcast, Alex Jakes and DC, who aren't with us right now, to these three guys, to Emma Walsh for this weekend, for being absolutely incredible, Alex Brundle, of course, as well, and Sam Collins, everyone behind the cameras and everyone back at base who make this show what it is. We will see you in a few days' time. Thank you so much for watching. Bring on Silverstone.
This is the British Grand Prix. It's only available in box office. And the Grand Prix is go! It is Lando Norris who leads from Max Verstappen in second place.
It's such a great atmosphere.
Max Verstappen comes out of the final corner. Max wins the British Grand Prix.